My dad used to say there's no ground higher between us and the Ural Mountains. And when the wind blew from the east, you could feel the truth of it. On the tops, the farmers called it a lazy wind. Lazy, because it doesn't bother to go round you.
What's the worst winter you've ever had?
I think 1911, 1912 it were a bad winter.
What was it like?
Oh, it snowed anything from 10 to 12 foot deep. Aye. They were cutting and they were having chuck it up there for one and then so they're having chuck it off. Buses buried last year. Aye, on our big road.
What about 47? How did it go on there?
And in the morning, I woke to a strange light, a strange calm. From where I lay, the sounds of the world were muffled. The crows had lost their harsher notes, and excited voices were softly excited, and the world was reborn. By heaven's grace, a new page, and possibilities as numerous as glints of sunlight flashed like jewels over a white, unexplored world.
Of blue skies on Sundays, thick socks in wellies, knitted hats, and rosy cheeks on wintry walks to cosy pubs, where the talk is good and pints are hand-pulled warm and flat, and damp dogs snooze on beer-stained mats. Of how, like snow melt, memories trickle out from below drifts of years piled high, higher than road signs that, unburied, said Manchester left, Sheffield right. Welcome to Tideswell, whited out. Of roads been blocked and tids are stranded, but look, the snow had stopped and school was cancelled. Days were hours sledging Western Bank on plastic bags and kitchen trays and finding tracks of birds and hares. Of shovelling snow and the joy of digging paths from door to gate and having too much fun to stop. Funny how clearing streets would clear my mind. Snow banked in layers, a palimpsest. The thrill of land made new. A white still life, its palette muted by water's frozen weight. A subtle spectrum, difficult to paint. Even now I look for tracks, and I still love shovelling snow.
Nothing is silent like the silence of snow in the dead of a winter's night. Whether 'tis one or 10 below. Nothing is silent like the silence of snow. Nothing is white like the whiteness of snow before it is marked by the trails, whether it glistens in sun or no. Nothing is white like the whiteness of snow.
No wonder we remember drift-filled lanes and the snow taking weeks, sometimes months to thaw. In the 1970s, the Dark Peak often recorded more than 70 days of snow a year. Now it's down to about 49 days. A fact which leaves the mountain hare, who still turn white in winter, conspicuous on the heather-clad flanks of Bleak Low and Kinder Scout, like hosts who forgot to mention its fancy dress, or mythical beings caught in an age where magic is the preserve of stories. During the making of this chapter, shepherds have told me our vintage breed of sheep, the Derbyshire Gritster, have supernatural powers for forecasting snow. Yet even that couldn't save them in the huge winters of 1947 and 63, when livestock perished and the railways disappeared under drifts in Derbyshire up to 27 feet deep. People have told me of buried houses and tunnels to the outside lavatory. What did they do when they ran out of paper? The mind boggles.
How Mum managed, I don't know how she fed. I mean, at 10 you don't realise, do you? I don't know how she fed us, really. How would she get out? She couldn't get out.
47, I can remember we lived at Normanwood, and we come out at bedroom windows and slid down drifts into the yard because all around the house were buried.
And people in the, oh, blimey heck, isn't there some snow? I says, snow? You've seen nothing yet. Why? I says, well, when you see telegraph poles, stick it out top like that. I says, that's snow.
They were never a line up, no telegraph lines, no nothing. They were all fixed then. Aye.
They just dug, after so many days or weeks, they dug a spade width.
Yeah.
They had to cut it out in blocks with spades and throw it. It was just enough for you to walk through, you know, with your shoulders bunched together. You can't imagine it, can you?
Over the place, the moon shines bright. The bells of paradise, I hear them ring, denoting our Saviour was born on this night. I love my Lord Jesus.
And it's a funny thing, you know, a lot of people don't realise, but when you're a moorland or anything like that, if you saw sheep eating from morning till night, there were a storm coming. They know, and they go to where it's sheltered, and they like fill themselves up and they're all right. And I said, it's going to come bad weather, them sheep are eating all day. And it come. Yeah, it was only about a day after, about 2 days after it was real storm.
When it was a big snow coming, most of these old moorland ewes, they'd clear off from an area and go to somewhere where they felt they were safe. Except in, like in 1947 and your 63 winters, when it was so severe, so big amounts of snow, it just swamped them. They couldn't get anywhere.
Lost Lad. On the map of the Dark Peak to the east of Durrant Reservoir near Back Tor is a hill named Lost Lad. And if you're bold or foolhardy enough to be up there in midwinter, you might see a boy and his dog there too, wandering lost. Don't bother calling to them though, they won't answer. The story is of Abraham, a young shepherd boy who lived with his mum in the now submerged village of Derwent. One winter, following a heavy snowfall, Abraham went out to find the sheep. Perhaps there was no sign of them where he hoped they'd be. So he set off above the snow-filled cloughs and into the freshly whited hills. What happened next is an old story. As old as hills and shepherds and mountain sheep. The storm returned, and in the blizzards the boy lost his sense of direction. It's very easy to become exhausted and confused, wading waist-deep in the drifts and hollows, blinded by the driving snow. Eventually, poor Abraham sought shelter in the space beneath an outcrop of gritstone, where he curled up with his dog and began to fall asleep. Before doing so, though, he found a loose rock and scratched the words, "Lost Lad," above where they lay. It was perhaps the last thing he did, for in the cold and wet he never woke again. In the morning his mother raised the alarm, but the recent storm had covered the boy's tracks, and despite a long and fraught search, Abraham could not be found. It wasn't until the spring that a fellow shepherd saw the words "Lost Lad" scratched on the rock. The pathetic plea for help of the boy with this dog, whose bodies were now found curled together. The dog quite probably survived the night of the storm, but wouldn't leave its young master's side. In memory of their desperate search for sheep and shelter, and to help others find their way when the fog or snow descends, a cairn was raised on the hill nearby, and for at least the next 100 years, it was added to by every shepherd who passed the place known as Lost Lad.
There's no ground higher between us and the Ural Mountains. Auntie Beattie wrote from Manchester.
I've had to brush the garden path 3 times this week.
How we laughed. They say one freezing night, old man Maycock insisted on making his way to the Gate Inn and never made it home. They found him in the morning, frozen stiff beneath a wall. So they took a gate off its hinges, laid him on it, and carried him home. He thought, said, "What's for breakfast?" Dad rang Mrs. Cleaver last night. She lives alone at the top of the pines. He was trekking to the shop and wondered if she needed anything. She said, "Wonderful, Peter. Saved my life. I need a bottle of Martell, one of Scotch, a bottle of Gordon's, white label if they have it, if not Hague, a bottle of Martini, and a loaf of bread." And to get there, he had to walk on the tops of the walls. The bags of bottles clinking. When it all turns wet, a dampness that soaks you to the marrow, tomorrow and the next. And Jackie's nose looks red and raw, and pickled eggs and powdered milk taste of nothing more. And the white giant who fell in flurries of excitement lies solid, grey and sullen from your short-lived welcome. Then you think of bluebells and try to remember spring. Once on a moonlit night, Dad took us sledging, woke us at midnight. Look at the moon, beautiful. And wide-eyed at both the moon and Dad, the four of us followed him and our heavy wooden sledge to Allen Hill, now lying on the far western edge of the Ural Mountains.
You've been listening to Voices from the Peak, featuring timber-layer Thomas Birds, poet Alison Riley, evacuee Jean Johnson, shepherds Bill Brocklehurst, Michael Woolley and Jim Rushton, and theatre director Sue Stones, retelling the legend of Lost Lad. With music by Psychic Bread and Esther Swift, recorded in concert with the Clouds Harp Quartet at All Saints Church, Yorgrave. Hannah James and Kerfuffle sang the Castleton Carol. Silence of Snow by Ashley Hutchins and Ruth Angel is from the album A Midwinter Miscellany on Talking Elephant Records. Special thanks to Louise Swain,
Tom Marshall, Alison Riley, Alison Foote, Anna Kerr, Christine Gregory and Gavin Repton. Voices from the Peak is produced by Mark Gwynne Jones and Paul Hopkinson, with support from the Peak District National Park, Derbyshire County Council, the Arkwright Society and Arts Council England. Join us next time when Mark will be climbing Kinder Scout and exploring the connections between the world's first water-powered cotton spinning mill and the now vital battle to heal the moorlands. Till then, goodbye.